Before we dive in, viewer discretion is advised. This content is for entertainment purposes. What happens when a quiet storm walks straight into a studio known for turning whispers into wildfire? In the blink of an eye, the live audience settles into their seats. The bright stage lights sharpen like 1,000 watchful eyes, and the energy shifts with a pulse you can almost feel beneath your skin. Luke Bryan steps onto the set with that familiar, easy stride, but there's something different in the air today, something heavier, something that makes every camera operator lean just a bit closer. Joy Behar sits poised at the table, her smile controlled and curious, the kind of smile that tells you she's already planning her next move. As Luke takes his seat, the room seems to momentarily freeze. Conversations fade. The buzzing stage machinery quiets, and even the shifting of the audience slows as if the entire studio senses a collision waiting to happen. A beat of anticipation rolls through the space, subtle at first, then stronger, like a wave rising just before it breaks. Joy's eyes narrow with a glint of playful challenge, and Luke's jaw tightens with the kind of calm strength that warns he's not walking into this unprepared. The first question drops. Light on the surface but edged with something sharper underneath. It ripples through the studio, slicing the air clean in half. Luke hears it, weighs it, lets the silence stretch just long enough to draw every heartbeat in the room into alignment. Something flickers behind his eyes, something the audience can feel but can't name yet, something that sends a collective shiver down the spine of the studio. Behind the cameras, a producer inhales sharply. A stagehand stops mid-step. No one knows what Luke is about to say, but everyone feels the fuse catch fire. Because this moment isn't planned. This moment isn't safe. This moment is the first crack in what's about to become a Hollywood shockwave, and somewhere inside that breathless quiet, the promise of an explosive line. One that will land squarely on Joy. Begins to bloom. The storm doesn't begin on camera. It starts in the quiet corners of the studio, long before the audience takes their seats, long before the lights burn awake, long before anyone realizes they're about to witness a moment that will rattle the walls of daytime television. Backstage, the energy hums with a tension that feels strangely alive, like the air right before lightning splits open the sky. Luke Bryan arrives earlier than expected, stepping into the dim, bustling corridor with a half smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. His boots echo against the polished floor, each step measured, steady, controlled. But beneath that calm exterior, something churns, a blend of curiosity, caution, and the quiet readiness of a man who knows how quickly a conversation can turn into a battlefield. He adjusts his jacket, exhales, and lets the faint murmur of producers and crew wash over him. He's been on countless stages, faced millions of fans, navigated hostile interviews and high-pressure moments, yet today feels different. Something in the air whispers that he should stay alert. Joy Behar sits in her dressing room, the door slightly ajar, the glow of the mirror reflecting a face both experienced and determined. She flips through her note cards with a sharp, practiced rhythm, her eyes narrowing each time she pauses on a particular question. One wrapped in controversy, one she knows could ignite, one she has chosen intentionally. She taps the edge of the card against her desk, a silent beat of anticipation. She's not nervous, she's calculating. She knows the audience expects her signature bite, and she fully intends to deliver it. But even she can feel something unusual hanging in the air, an invisible warning she pretends not to notice. In the control room, producers whisper in low, urgent tones, their eyes darting across the monitors as if searching for reassurance that simply isn't there. They know Joy's outline, they know Luke's reputation. And they know this combination has the potential to go sideways fast. One of them runs a hand through his hair, exhaling slowly as though trying to release the tension building in his chest. Another bites her lip, glancing at the clock like it's counting down to an event none of them can stop. Still, no one says anything. Not out loud, not when the stakes are this high, not when interrupting Joy or warning Luke could spark the exact explosion they're trying to avoid. Meanwhile, just beyond the curtains, the audience trickles in with excited chatter, completely unaware of the storm gathering only a few feet away. They laugh, settle into their seats, snap selfies, and whisper about which hot topic the hosts will tackle first. They don't see the subtle tension in the producer's shoulders. They don't notice the stage manager pacing a little quicker than usual. They have no idea they're about to witness a confrontation so sharp it could cut straight through the polished surface of daytime TV. Luke stands near the entrance to the stage, rolling his shoulders slightly, shaking off the last remnants of hesitation. His eyes flick toward Joy's silhouette as she steps out of her dressing room, rehearsed calm radiating from her like a shield. Their gazes meet for just 1 second, just one, and in that brief moment something unspoken crackles between them, something electric, something volatile, something that warns the universe that a line is about to be crossed. The stage manager calls out that they're going live soon, his voice tighter than usual. Luke nods. Joy smiles. The crew stiffens. The audience cheers. No one knows what's coming. No one knows how quickly the atmosphere will shift once the questions begin. No one knows they're standing on the edge of a moment that will erupt with enough force to echo across Hollywood. But the storm knows. It's already alive, already swelling, already threading itself through the walls of the studio. Waiting, ready, about to break, the conversation starts almost too gently, like a calm surface of water hiding the current beneath. The studio lights warm the set in a soft glow, the audience leaning forward with easy smiles, unaware of the small tremor running under the floor. Luke Bryan settles into his chair with that familiar southern ease, offering a polite grin that earns a wave of applause. Joy Behar welcomes him with a bright, almost disarming tone, her voice coated in sweetness but carrying an edge so thin it's nearly invisible. For a moment everything feels harmless, almost friendly, as if both of them are simply exchanging niceties in a quiet cafe instead of sitting under the burning spotlight of live TV. But then Joy lifts her first card. Her fingers pause for barely half a second, a tiny hesitation so subtle most people miss it. Luke doesn't. His eyes track the motion, slow and steady, like a man who has spent a lifetime reading a room before taking his first step. The smile on Joy's face deepens, though it no longer reaches her eyes. She leans in, breath controlled, posture poised, and delivers the opening question with a softness misleading enough to feel dangerous. The moment the words leave her mouth, the atmosphere shifts. Not violently, not loudly, but sharply, like a sudden drop in temperature that makes the back of your neck tense. Luke hears the change instantly. The audience feels it too, though they don't quite understand why. Even the crew behind the cameras straighten, their expressions tightening around the edges as if bracing for something they can't yet predict. Luke lets the question settle for a heartbeat, then another, his silence long enough to thicken the air but not long enough to seem unsure. His jaw moves just slightly, the muscle tightening then relaxing, a subtle tell only the closest viewers would catch. His eyes flicker with something measured, something steady, as if he's weighing the exact gravity of Joy's opening move. He answers politely at first, his voice a smooth, low rumble that fills the space without pushing against it. But the weight behind his words hints at a boundary, a quiet warning wrapped in calm composure. Joy tilts her head, taking in every detail, his posture, his tone, the controlled fire behind his eyes, and her smile stretches a little wider. She senses it, he senses it, the room senses it, the tension begins to ripple outward, gentle enough to hide inside the laughter of the audience, but strong enough to vibrate through every chord of the conversation. Luke shifts slightly in his seat, adjusting his shoulders, grounding himself with the kind of instinct a performer learns only after years of standing beneath blinding lights and unpredictable crowds. His hands remain still, resting on his lap, but his fingers curl inward just a fraction, a tiny spark of focus tightening inside him. Joy moves to her next point with a slow, deliberate rhythm, her voice dipping into that familiar blend of humor and challenge. She circles back to his previous answer with precision, pushing just enough to make the air thicken again. The audience chuckles, unaware they're stepping closer to the flame. Luke studies her, his eyes sharpen. His expression stays even, but there's a flicker, quick, bright, unmistakable, like the first spark catching on dry wood. He leans in just slightly, answering with a touch more weight than before, his tone still steady but carrying a new undertone, one that hints he's fully aware of where Joy is steering this ship. He doesn't back away, doesn't deflect. He meets her head on, calm and unshaken. And in that exact instant, the temperature in the room rises a single, perceptible degree, a soft shift, a quiet warning, a signal that passes through the studio like a whisper from the future. One of the producers inhales sharply behind the camera. A stagehand freezes mid-step at the far corner of the set. Joy's smile twitches, small, fleeting, but enough to reveal she felt the spark too. Luke holds her gaze, letting the silence stretch for a heartbeat longer than necessary. It hits the room like a slow, rolling drumbeat. The conversation eases into motion with a softness that almost feels deceptive, the kind of gentle opening that tries to convince everyone in the room they're safe. Luke Bryan leans back slightly, offering a warm, easy grin that draws a wave of applause from the crowd. The lights glow overhead, steady and calm, wrapping the set in an inviting warmth. For a moment it feels like the room is settling into a comfortable rhythm, a smooth dance between host and guest. That illusion lasts exactly 5 seconds. Joy Behar's fingers brush the edge of her first card, and the moment she glances down, something in the air shifts. Luke catches it instantly. His eyes track the movement with quiet precision, the way a man studies the first ripple in a still pond before the storm breaks. Joy lifts her gaze, smile bright but sharpened ever so slightly at the edges, and releases the first question with a tone so light it almost hides the weight tucked inside it. Almost. The words drop between them like a small stone hitting water, sending a subtle shockwave across the table. It's a question wrapped in charm, dipped in humor, but carrying an unmistakable undertone, a challenge dressed up as casual curiosity. The audience laughs softly, unaware of the sudden pulse of tension that just shifted the room's entire temperature. Luke feels it immediately. The pressure presses against his spine, not overwhelming, but enough to force him into sharper focus. He exhales through his nose, the tiniest release of breath, and straightens just a fraction in his chair. His smile remains easy and polite, but something steadier slips into his eyes, a watchfulness, a readiness. He answers with calm precision, his voice smooth but firm, each word placed with deliberate care. He doesn't deflect, he doesn't stumble. He simply meets the question head on with a clarity that makes the audience lean forward without knowing why. Joy studies him, her expression softening for a split moment before her eyes narrow just slightly, a glimmer of calculation flickering beneath the surface. Luke's hand rests on his knee, fingers barely tapping, small, subtle, a physical hint of the tightening coil inside him. Joy leans in, elbows edging closer to the table, her posture shifting into something more alert, more engaged, more ready to push. The room senses the change even before anyone speaks again. The laughter quiets. The hum of backstage equipment fades into the background. A stillness stretches across the set like a thick curtain slowly drifting downward. Joy's voice lifts again, this time with a bit more edge, looping back to his answer with a clever twist that nudges him toward a corner, just wide enough to test him. Luke tilts his head slightly, eyes narrowing with a spark of controlled fire. He's not angry, he's not rattled, but he's fully awake now, fully aware that this conversation is shifting into deeper waters. He leans forward with a slow, steady confidence, delivering his next line with a precision that cuts through the air cleanly. The audience reacts, a mix of laughter and surprise rising from their seats. Joy blinks once, quick, subtle, then recovers with a bright smile that feels tighter than before. Behind the cameras, a producer stiffens. Another stops adjusting a monitor, frozen mid-motion. Luke notices everything. The tightening expressions, the shifting energy, the faint buzz of tension threading through the room like electricity looking for a place to land. Joy lifts her next card. Luke's fingers curl just slightly against his knee. The silence between them thickens, and in that suspended heartbeat, a quiet realization settles over the studio, invisible but undeniable, like the distant rumble of thunder rolling across an open sky. This is only the beginning. Everyone can feel it. Joy doesn't waste a second. The moment the audience's reaction fades, she leans forward with a spark in her eyes that makes the crew shift nervously behind the cameras. Her fingers brush the next card, the paper bending ever so slightly under the pressure of her grip, and she releases another question. This one sharper, heavier, aimed with the precision of someone who knows exactly where to strike. The tone remains light, almost playful, but the words slice clean through the air like a blade wrapped in velvet. Luke hears the shift before he fully processes the question. His posture straightens just a touch, his jaw tenses, a subtle, instinctive response, and the warmth in his smile cools into something steadier, something anchored. The tension lands squarely between them, invisible but dense, settling across the table like a weight neither of them intends to lift. He answers without flinching, no hesitation, no stumble. His voice stays controlled, low, threaded with a smoothness that masks the steel beneath it. Each word he chooses lands with a quiet clarity, firm enough to hold the line but polished enough to keep the tone civil. It's a balancing act, one he pulls off with the kind of composure that only years under blinding lights can teach. Joy listens, nodding, that smile tightening into something thin and unreadable. She's not backing down. She circles back again, nudging the question from another angle, pushing with a little more force this time, enough to make the energy around them flicker dangerously. The studio lights seem to grow warmer. The audience shifts but makes no sound. Every breath in the room stalls, suspended between anticipation and dread. Luke lifts his chin slightly, his eyes narrow, not in anger, but in focus. He's not letting her steer him into a corner. Not today. His reply comes sharper now, not impolite, but undeniably firm, a line drawn with the kind of subtle precision that speaks louder than any raised voice ever could. A ripple runs through the audience, a soft gasp swallowed before it escapes fully, as if everyone realizes at once that the conversation has crossed an invisible threshold. The words between them turn into weapons. Not shouted, not explosive, but pointed, intentional, each one edged with meaning. Joy fires another question. Luke meets it with a calm, slicing response. The temperature in the studio rises degree by degree until it feels like the air itself is vibrating. One of the co-hosts shifts uncomfortably, her smile faltering as she glances between the two of them. Another tries to interject, voice light and overly cheerful, desperate to break the tension. But the moment she speaks, the energy on the set swallows her whole. Joy doesn't turn. Luke doesn't look away. The conversation belongs to them now. And everyone else has become an accessory to a duel they never saw coming. Joy's voice sharpens, dipping into that unmistakable rhythm she uses when she's cornering a guest. She tilts her head, eyebrow lifting in a challenge, and asks another question that lands like a small explosion on the table. The audience goes silent, completely, utterly silent. Not even a cough, not even the rustle of clothing, just breathless, suspended stillness. Luke reacts with a single exhale, steady and controlled. His shoulders loosen, but his gaze locks in, unshakable. He leans forward just enough to show he's not intimidated, not pushed off balance. His response comes, wrapped in calm but charged with unmistakable force, a verbal counterpunch delivered with perfect precision. Even the cameras seem to lean closer, as if trying to capture every flicker of detail on his face. The co-hosts glance at each other, their expressions tightening with worry. They can't interrupt. They can't stop it. They can only watch as the balance of power shifts right in front of them. Joy pushes, but Luke pushes back. Not with aggression, but with a kind of grounded strength that begins to tilt the entire table. Joy feels it. A flicker in her smile betrays her. Her eyes dart for the briefest second to the producers, as if gauging whether she's gone too far, but she returns to Luke almost immediately, refusing to show weakness. The silence between their exchanges grows heavier, longer, more charged. Every word becomes a choice. Every breath becomes a signal. Every shift of posture carries the weight of the battle unfolding in real time, and slowly, unmistakably, the power begins to move. It slides across the table like a shadow changing direction. Luke's voice steadies further. Joy's questions press harder but land less cleanly. The audience senses the shift, their attention locked on Luke now, drawn to the calm fire rising behind his eyes. What began as a gentle interview has transformed into a collision course, and everyone in the studio, hosts, crew, audience, knows the storm has officially broken. The heat is rising, the balance is tipping, and the moment everything flips is coming fast. The moment builds so slowly it's almost unnoticeable, until it snaps all at once. Joy Behar leans in, eyes sharp, posture lifted with the confidence of someone who believes she's about to land the final blow. The studio lights flicker across her expression, revealing a glint that's equal parts daring and defiant. She inhales, just barely, and lets out the question that has been sitting at the edge of this conversation like a loaded trap. It comes wrapped in her signature humor, but the undercurrent is unmistakably pointed. The words spill into the air like a dropped match onto gasoline. The room freezes. There isn't a breath, not a whisper, not even the rustle of fabric from the audience. It's as if the entire studio has been locked inside a single, suspended heartbeat. One camera zooms in on Luke's face, catching the instant his eyes widen, not in shock, but in recognition of exactly what Joy is trying to do. Another angle cuts to the audience. Mouths parted, eyes stretched, waiting for something they can't name but can feel in their bones. Luke doesn't move at first. His hands remain still on his lap, fingers loose, posture controlled. But his jaw sets with a quiet, decisive click. The temperature in the room shifts again, sharper this time, as if someone opened a door and let in a rush of cold air. Luke lifts his gaze, steady and unblinking, and the camera locks onto him as though it knows history is about to unfold in a single sentence. Joy smiles, the kind of smile that says she thinks she's taken the upper hand. But the smile flickers, just once, when Luke finally moves. He leans forward, slow and deliberate, planting his elbows lightly on his knees. The lighting catches the steel in his eyes, the calm fire simmering just beneath the surface. He lets the silence stretch, lets it saturate the room until the tension tightens like a wire about to snap. When he speaks, his voice is low, clear, and impossibly calm, a direct contrast to the chaos ripping through the studio's atmosphere. His words cut through the air with surgical precision, sharp enough to make the audience collectively flinch. It's not loud, it's not angry, it's controlled power. A verbal strike delivered with the ease of a man who knows exactly how devastating honesty can be when it's spoken without fear. In the audience, someone gasps. Another person mutters, "Oh my God," under their breath. The camera nearest Luke wobbles slightly as the operator instinctively reacts to the explosion unfolding. Joy's smile collapses. Her eyes widen with the first visible crack of surprise, her mask slipping just enough to reveal the shock beneath. She tries to respond, but no sound comes out. Her throat tightens. Her fingers curl against the edge of the table, gripping hard enough to turn her knuckles white. The remaining hosts shift uneasily, their expressions a tangled mix of panic and disbelief. One of them attempts to jump in, voice trembling with forced cheer, but stops midway as she realizes the moment is too big to interrupt. The control room erupts into frantic movement, producers waving their hands, sound engineers scrambling, someone yelling to switch camera angles. Red lights blink across the board like an alarm. But on the main floor, everything feels frozen. Luke leans back again, calm, collected, almost impossibly composed. The fire behind his eyes has settled into something even more dangerous, certainty. He knows exactly what he just did. The audience knows. Joy knows. Everyone on set feels the seismic shift as the power on that table slams fully, decisively, into his hands. Joy finally exhales, shaky and uneven. She looks down at her cards, searching for an anchor that simply isn't there anymore. The silence becomes its own character, heavy and suffocating, pressing down on every corner of the studio. The audience shifts in their seats, torn between awe and shock, unsure whether to clap, gasp, or simply stare. One of the cameras moves in closer on Joy's face, catching the stunned stillness in her expression. Another swings back to Luke, capturing the quiet strength radiating off him, the kind that doesn't need volume to dominate a room. Time feels fractured, stretching, warping, bending around the impact of what's just been said. Then, like a dam finally cracking, the audience erupts. Some cheer, some shout, some simply stare forward, hands over their mouths. The hosts exchange frantic glances. Joy tries to recover, but the words falter on her lips. Nothing she says now can undo what just happened. The View, known for its storms, has never felt a shockwave like this. The moment doesn't just land, it shatters everything. The shockwave doesn't stay contained within the walls of the studio. It bursts outward the moment the cameras cut to commercial, racing through the building like thunder rolling down a canyon. Producers rush from their stations with frantic whispers, faces pale, eyes wide, the magnitude of what just unfolded hitting them all at once. In the control room, someone mutters, "This is going to blow up," and another replies, "It already has." Outside the studio, the world reacts with the speed of lightning. Clips of the confrontation hit social media within minutes, grainy phone recordings from audience members shaking with adrenaline as they upload the footage. On Twitter, posts multiply like sparks jumping from a wildfire, each replayed second fueled by disbelief and excitement. The words "Did you see that?" flood timelines, hashtags explode, comment sections ignite. Some defend Luke with fierce devotion. Others rally behind Joy with equal intensity. The digital arena becomes its own battleground, millions of eyes locked on the moment that shattered the calm facade of daytime television. Celebrities begin weighing in before the episode even finishes airing on the West Coast. Country stars, comedians, actors, talk show personalities, all stepping into the fray with opinions that only fan the flames higher. Some praise Luke for staying composed under pressure. Some applaud Joy for pushing boundaries. Others simply express shock, admitting they haven't seen a daytime moment hit this hard in years. Every comment becomes a headline. Every headline becomes fuel. Hollywood gossip sites pounce instantly. Articles erupt across the internet with dramatic titles, flashing thumbnails, and quotes pulled from every imaginable angle. Analysts debate what the clash means. Commentators pick apart posture, tone, and each micro-expression. Every frame becomes evidence. Every breath becomes a storyline. Paparazzi swarm outside the View studio, eager to catch even a hint of fallout. Inside the building, a crisis meeting snaps into motion. Producers gather around a long conference table, voices tense, the air thick with urgency. They replay the clip again and again, analyzing every second, trying to decide how to address the chaos already spiraling beyond their control. Some worry about backlash, some worry about ratings. Most worry about the fact that nothing like this has ever hit their show with such force. Words like damage control, public statement, and emergency response echo through the room like warning bells. Meanwhile, Luke steps into a quiet hallway, phone vibrating nonstop in his pocket. Messages from friends flood in, some cheering him on, others checking if he's okay. Fans swarm his mentions with fire emojis, applause, and disbelief. A few critics go after him with harsh words, but he scrolls past those with a slow breath, steady and unshaken. He knows the moment was big. He knows it hit harder than anyone expected. But he also knows he said what he believed, and that certainty anchors him in the middle of the storm. Joy retreats to her dressing room, closing the door with a soft click, shoulders tightening as she sinks into a chair. She scrolls through her own notifications, some supportive, others brutal. Her fans rally behind her with fierce loyalty, defending her words, her tone, her stance. But the backlash hits hard too. She exhales, long and slow, fingertips pressing against her temples, trying to steady herself against the avalanche of noise pouring through her phone. Outside, the studio hallway buzzes with whispers. Crew members exchange stunned looks, replaying the moment in their minds like a scene from a movie they can't quite believe was real. One mutters, "We just made history." Another whispers, "History or trouble." It's impossible to know the difference yet. What everyone does know is this: the confrontation didn't end when the cameras stopped rolling. It spread, fast, fierce, unstoppable, through Hollywood, social media, and every corner of the entertainment world. The moment has taken on a life of its own, growing by the minute, shaping narratives, dividing opinions, and pulling millions into its gravitational field. The studio is no longer just a studio. It's the epicenter of an earthquake, still sending tremors across the world. When the cameras finally go dark and the chaos of the moment begins to thin, the truths no one dared to voice start slipping through the cracks. Behind closed doors, away from the noise of social media and the blinding lights of the studio, the deeper motivations on both sides slowly surface like shadows rising from the floor. Luke sits quietly in a small waiting room, the buzz of his phone muffled by the cushion beside him. He isn't angry, he isn't rattled. He's thoughtful, replaying every word with the calm clarity of someone who knows exactly why he reacted the way he did. He had walked into that studio ready to be challenged, ready to defend himself, but not ready for the kind of loaded moment Joy triggered. Yet somewhere deep inside, he knew that line had been waiting for him long before today. Joy, in her own space, confronts a different truth. The question she asked, the one that ignited everything, wasn't improvised, it wasn't accidental, it was chosen. A card she debated, a card she hesitated on, a card she ultimately kept because she felt she had to push, had to test, had to provoke something real, something raw. She didn't expect the explosion, but she sparked it knowingly, and now she faces the aftermath of a choice she made long before Luke sat across from her. Down the hallway, the crew whispers in low, stunned voices. One stagehand recounts how he felt the air change seconds before the final blow. A camera operator swears he saw Luke's eyes shift just before his now infamous line, like a signal only those closest could sense. A producer mutters that they had feared exactly this kind of moment would erupt someday. Just not today, not like this, not with those two. Little details begin to trickle out. Someone mentions Joy had scrapped 3 earlier questions right before the show. Someone else recalls Luke pacing more than usual backstage. Another reveals that the control room had prepared 2 backup segments, just in case. A decision that now feels eerily prophetic. In the quiet after the storm, with truth finally unmasked, one thing becomes painfully clear. That confrontation wasn't born out of a single question. It was years of tension, perspective pressure, and expectation converging into one explosive second. And everyone who witnessed it knows there was far more beneath the surface than the world ever saw. In the days that follow, the moment begins to settle into Hollywood lore, retold and replayed with the kind of reverence normally reserved for iconic movie scenes. Commentators call it a turning point. Fans call it unforgettable. Insiders whisper that it marks the beginning of a shift, one where unscripted truth cuts sharper than any planned segment ever could. The significance doesn't lie only in the clash itself, but in what it revealed. Luke's calm fire, Joy's unwavering push. The collision of 2 forces who believed in their perspectives strongly enough to let the world watch them collide. It becomes a reminder that even in the polished world of daytime television, real emotion still has the power to break through the perfect veneer. Weeks later, people still talk about the silence right before Luke delivered his defining line, the way the audience gasped, the way Joy's mask slipped, the way the camera caught every tiny flicker of expression as if documenting a piece of history. It becomes a reference point, a story told on late-night shows, podcasts, fan forums, and behind closed doors in industry meetings. Everyone has a take, everyone has an angle, everyone has a moment burned into their memory from that day. Hollywood has a long history of dramatic confrontations, but this one hits different. This one carries the weight of authenticity, the rawness of 2 people who refuse to step back, the emotional electricity that can only spark when the stakes feel personal. And long after the noise fades, long after new controversies try to take its place, the moment remains. Quiet, unshakable, unmistakable. A reminder that sometimes reality slips through the cracks of entertainment and becomes something unforgettable. A moment that will be remembered, a moment that will be replayed, a moment that, in its own intense and unexpected way, changes everything.